Hello, good people. I am so excited to bring you this interview with Z, the author, a
Ah,
rapper, singer, director, songwriter out of Albuquerque, New Mexico, which is the last place that I thought we were going to see the music scene really popping, but we're going to talk about that a little bit later. But welcome to Z. Thank you so much for joining me.
hey, what's going on?
So I was introduced to Z through Joffro, who I did with as well, and I got the music, Z sends me his tracks like, I know it's like 11 o'clock at night or something like that. And I start listening and I literally cannot go to sleep because every track was just a banger. The production, the lyrics, all those different things. Like it was so good. I was just like, I'm going to be up all night, like listening to your whole collection. So tell us about how you got started. Have you always been a writer? Have you always been into music? Like, where did you really get started with that? Because you're still fairly young too. So how did you really get into it?
Yeah, so music has always kind of been a part of my life. First of all, thank you for taking the time to like listen to the music and show support. And as artists, we love that. We love people tapping in and really appreciating our work and our creativity. But like I said, I started like with music. I started playing the drums when I was like 3 or 4 years old. You know what I mean? It's kind of like something that like my family kind of took notice of when I was younger. That it's kind of like a pots and pans situation where it's like
Mhm.
some people like sports, some people like other things, and I just really took to music, and I've always loved it. And so, like I said, I started playing drums when I was young. Years later, I started picking up other instruments. I grew up in the church, so I had that kind of an influence as well as far as like the music is concerned and gospel and from there, music has just always been a huge part of my life. Played in school, middle school, high school, band, all that kind of stuff, and I started writing when I was about like 13 or 14. Like I would just write. I wasn't really like writing raps though. I was kind of just like writing like spoken word kind of in a way. Just trying to get things off of your chest. You know what I mean? Like whenever you have um, you know, things going on in your life. And it's kind of funny to say things going on in your life because I was only like 13. So it's like, what is going on in my life? But I don't know. I felt passionate enough to want to talk about it. I don't know you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I just was talking about it, whatever I felt moved by. And eventually it grew and it grew and my vocabulary grew and the range of topics that I wanted to talk about grew. And eventually one day I guess the music side of me and then the writing side of me just was like, let's get married. So they put a ring on it, and it's been like that ever since. And I've been just like rapping over music and beats ever since. And it's been a rap. Yeah,
I love that. I love how you talk about how they like merged together, they got married, put a ring on it, right? Because it really does reflect in your music, right? Like almost each of your albums is sort of a story, right? You're sort of walking us through this journey. And I really appreciate that you talked about that. With writing, do you keep it on your phone? Do you keep it in a book? Like what is your talk to us about your songwriting like process? Like I'm really interested in like the details of those types of things.
yeah. Well, I guess in a way, like I do have a notebook that I write in. You know what I'm saying? But I keep that like at the crib because I'm so afraid of like losing it when I go places.
Mm-hmm.
I keep it like you know what I mean, and I only use it when I'm at home or like in a home setting. But if I'm on the go and I'm just like writing when I'm on the go, like I use my phone all the time. Like I use my phone all the time. I mean, I'm like a super fast texter too,
Yeah.
because you know what I'm saying. I'm always
Yeah.
so yeah. I use both at the and I don't know. I guess I don't really feel a difference when it comes to like writing in a notebook versus writing in my phone or on a computer or anything. It all kind of feels the same to me. Like it's just you're getting something off your mind. You know what I mean? So I don't really pay attention to like the feeling of it. I
Where do you
just
get your
like
where do you get your inspirations from? Like, are you just walking down the street and then something happens and you're like, "Oh, I got to write about this," or like,
yeah.
what's going on?
Man, yeah. All the time like stuff. Every like mundane activities can give you inspiration. Like maybe you might see somebody walking down the street and like some homeboy does a backflip or something like that, and be like, "Damn, that was crazy how he just did that." You know what I'm saying? And you'd be like, "All right, now I'm gonna write a song about a backflip." Like,
Right.
you know what I mean? Like something that I aspire. Maybe I want to learn how to do a backflip, but I can't really physically do a backflip yet, so I'll just do a backflip in a song. I like
Hey,
I'll write a bar about doing a backflip. You feel me?
yeah,
Like just
yeah,
to
yeah.
make it seem like you was like you reflect the things that you aspire to be, I guess, in a way. Like sometimes my songs are from a place of reflecting. So like sometimes
Mhm.
maybe I'll write a song from a perspective or of an experience that I've had personally, and like that's me reflecting on that experience. But then there are other times where I write from the perspective of like something that maybe I haven't experienced, or maybe
Mm.
that the I've been a part of, but I want to get there. I want to get to that point. I want to experience that. So like it's almost like you're speaking it into existence in your music. Like I guess a lot of times, especially in hip hop with rappers, people kind of call us like maybe like we're fake, or like we
Mm.
don't live the life we talk about. But in a way, I guess there's a difference between being fake and then just like like I said, speaking something into existence, or like wanting something or being hungry for something. You know what I mean? Like I've said songs about being a millionaire, like Jay-Z. You know what I mean? Like in the first song of my last project called "Look How They Treat Us,"
Yep.
um, I said I used to want a million,
Mhm.
but then Jay showed me billions, so now I want a trillion. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just like things like that. Like Jay-Z was the first, one of the first black billionaires. So it's like me seeing that and experiencing that, like similar to an experience of seeing a guy doing a backflip on the street. It's like experiencing that and seeing that makes you want to go and do the same thing for yourself. You know what I mean? And be better. So
I
in a way,
literally
and the rest of the world, the outside world, makes you want to do great things.
I literally wrote that down when I was listening to your tracks, and I was like I'm wondering if like I'm hearing some of the tracks like okay, this is your life, this is what's going on, this is whatever. But then the other stuff, I was like, I think this is like manifestations, right? Like this is what you are aspiring to. And I
Mm.
heard it in a lot of your songs. So I actually literally wrote down like, are the songs like that was like kind of one of my questions. So you kind of answered it. What about how did you get the name Z the author? So how did we get to that? Because when I Google you, right, I'm getting Zora Neale Hurston, I'm getting authors with the name Z and things like that.
Yeah,
Of course, you're the first thing that pops up, but what was
yeah.
the inspiration behind that? What was the point to
No,
have behind that?
that's funny. I was literally just on FaceTime with one of my homies, and we were talking about that, like Googling ourselves.
Yes.
And he Googled himself, and I Googled myself, and like it literally just says authors with the name Z. Or
Mm.
if you go to images, it'll say like book, like ABC books, like 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 books
Yeah.
or A to Z books or things like that. And so but I think so I've gone through different like names, different aliases. Started off with just my name, which is just Xavier, because for the longest time I was making music, but I just felt like out of touch because I didn't feel like I was cool enough to like have a rapper's name. Like
Mm.
all of the rappers and artists that I love, like I feel like they had such an aesthetic and like such a vibe about them. That's where they get their nicknames or their aliases from. And I was just like, I don't feel like I have that yet. So like I didn't want to
Mm.
have a name yet. So I just stuck with my actual name. And then I was at school when I came up with the name Z the Author. I was at school in New York, which is where I was going to college at the time. And I was in my dorm with with a couple of my friends. We were listening to music, and it just I don't know. Like I literally don't know where it came from, but it just came to me like at that moment where I
Yeah.
was just like,
Yeah.
I was like Z the Author, like that's crazy. And then my other friends were like Z the Author. I don't know about it. But then my one friend I was sitting in that room, he was like, yeah, that's dope. Don't forget that. He was like, wake up tomorrow. He's like, write it down, whatever. He's like, don't forget that.
Yeah.
And so I just never forgot it from then. And then I just the next day I woke up and I was just so moved by the fact that I was like, dang, this really stuck with me. Like I just loved the sound of it. I love the rhythm of saying it. And I just kept it. And then I changed all my social media. I went quick. I went all to my social media. I changed everything to Z the Author,
Right.
my email, everything. I was like Z the Author, Z the Author, Z the Author. And I think like going back to speaking things and like manifesting things
Mhm.
and speaking things into existence, it kind of just came to me at that moment, but I didn't really know exactly why it stuck with me so much and like why I wanted to call myself that. But it wasn't until months later, like after like making more music and
Mm.
discovering new things about myself, that I understood that like wow, like in a way where you know like when I'm writing and like when I'm making my music, it's almost like I'm writing my own life story, right? Like we talk about writing about our experiences. It's kind of like that same thing. So like when I call myself Z the Author, I call myself that because I feel like I'm writing my life story in a way. Like
Mm.
all my like if at the end of my life, because I consider myself a huge optimist. Like I love optimism and I love looking into the future. Like I look 15 years into the future all the time. So like I always think of like at the end of my life or at the end of my creative spell or like at the end of my musical career, I would love to be able to for anybody to look back, and if I drop 10 albums or 5 albums or 50 albums in my lifetime, that somebody can go from the first album all the way to the last album and be like, this guy just like told us his life story in the span of all of this music. Like at the end of, you know what I mean, like the beginning of his life all the way to the end of his life. And like this is all this, and so that's why I was just like, in a way, it's like we're all authors. We're authors of our own stories, and like we write our own lives. You know, so
Wow. Wow. I
my
was
music is
I
my book, my autobiography.
woo, I was not prepared for that, but you really took it. That is the perfect example of the name. That is, oh my gosh, that is a really great way to put that. I love how you talked about your writing your life, and Z the author does roll like every time I'm talking about you, I'm like Z the author. Like that is it's stuck in my head, right? So you're doing good with the naming. But I love how you talked about how this is like, yeah, like you're writing your whole life, like literally through your music. So that is really great. Definitely stick with it.
Thanks.
And yeah, I love that. So tell us about the New Mexico music scene, because you're from New
Yeah.
Mexico, and I've just started learning about, apparently there's like a really big collection of artists there and songwriters, and y'all are really working out there. So tell us about that.
Yeah, so I was talking to Joffro, and he had fortunately connected me with you.
Yep.
And you know, like I remember our initial conversation, and you were kind of just like, whoa, there's more of you guys. Like after talking to Joffro and then being able to talk to me, and then we were like, this not just us two, it's like
Yeah.
50, 60, 70 other people out here that's doing their thing. So I think, I don't know, in a nutshell, wow, how do I explain it? I guess we're just a bunch of people that love to create, and we have no creative bounds. You know, like
Mm,
we have no set bar of like this is what we want to do, or like this is what we're trying to get to. Like we just want to do what we do, and if it gets to this place, it'll get there. And we're not really focused on that because we're just trying to have fun and enjoy the fact that we're all doing this as a collectively in our city. Um, like in other cities, especially like I know you're in the shy, you know what I'm
yeah.
saying? Shout out to Common, Kanye,
Yeah.
Chance the Rapper, what Lupe, what it's ridiculous, right?
Everybody.
So
Yeah.
you got so many of these musical staples like in that's embedded in your city's culture, right, in Illinois culture and state's culture. And it's like that for so many other cities around the nation and around the world. But for our little crevice in New Mexico, we don't really necessarily have something, especially, and this is specifically in hip hop, right? There's so much culture
Yeah.
that comes from New Mexico and comes from Albuquerque that is recognized and acknowledged worldwide and internationally. But when it comes to hip hop, we're still kind of we're still kind of getting our feet in the water.
Mm,
And I personally love that so much because I feel like we have, like I said, we have no creative bounds. Like there's no bar to reach. Like there's no, like if you go to Atlanta, there are so many other people that have done it. You know what
mm,
I mean? And
mm,
like it can mean so many other like it can be whatever you envision success to be, right? You go to New York and there's so many other people that have done it. And you come to New Mexico, when it comes to hip hop, there really haven't been so many people that have done that,
mm,
right, on like
mm.
the international level. So it's like we're just like we could do this ourselves, and like we could be the ones that kind of inspire the next generation to be like, all right, now we're gonna take it a little bit further, and then their next generation is gonna take it a little bit further. So it's like we're just here to set the groundwork, you know what I mean? And in that, we understand that to the extent where we're not trying to be anybody else, and that's why I love where I come from so much, because it's like we're not trying to sound like people from Texas, we're not trying to sound like people from Cali, we're not trying to sound like anybody. We're just trying to be us and like be us to the greatest extent that we can. So um there are some, like, because of that, we have people like me and Joffro that like we rap, but then like we'll sing a little bit, make beats, you know what I mean? But then you got people that are like they do singer songwriter stuff, and then we got people that do like um folkloric dancing, like, or like salsa dancing, which is like it's wild, the kind of stuff that like that they incorporate into hip
Right.
hop. And then you got people that are rapping Spanish and people that are rapping all kind of different languages. Like
Yeah.
it's just like a melting pot, when you come here. And so
What
yeah,
is the
I don't
dancing you
know what
mentioned?
else to say about it.
What's the dancing you just mentioned?
Oh, folklorico. Oh, it's I don't even know. I excuse me if I am mispronouncing it too.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
like folkloric. folklorico. I'm not even gonna try it no more. I feel like
Okay,
I'm, but it's just like it's a it's a Hispanic like type of dance,
okay,
similar to salsa or
okay.
bachata, like culture. It's a cultural dance that is used in like a Central American or Mexican culture,
Got it.
and
Okay.
that's what I'm saying. Like, there's so many things
Yeah.
that we bring to the table from a cultural perspective, that not a lot of other places in the world do. And so I think that it's a beautiful place for people to look into, because like your eyes can be really open about the kind of the gems that we have out here.
My
A lot of people come here and they're like, dang, like I never thought New Mexico. They come here and they're like, I thought New Mexico was just a bunch of dirt and mountains and cactuses or cacti. You know what I mean? So um, yeah, it's a beautiful place. You come here and your eyes are open. And you start to see it. It's a lot different than what you expect.
That is definitely true. I've been to Albuquerque once, and all I remember was unfortunately getting like altitude sickness or something like that. But it was very beautiful. But my boss is from Santa Fe. And so when I told her about you and Joffro, she was just like, oh, like they must know so and so and they must know so and so. Because she's like,
Uh,
there's a huge hip hop scene. There's a lot of venues out here, all those different things. And she was just telling me about it. She was texting me about all her friends who know all these people. And I was just like, mind blown. I was just like, New
yeah,
Mexico, who would have thought? But I love it. I love the creativity that's there. I think I joked with you all. I was like, it must be the higher altitude. Like y'all are just
yeah, it's got to be the air.
right? Like something's
Yeah.
in the air, and that creativity is really out there. So I love that that's like a burgeoning scene. And
Mhm,
speaking of creativity, you're a director of your music videos.
mhm.
Tell us about how you go about directing your videos. I know each one sort of has a different sort of vibe, right? Lit and then Ray Lewis, right? And then all these different things. So tell us about, do you come up with those ideas or is it with a team or walk us through your sort of creative process?
Yeah, so when it comes to my music, I love to be very visual. Like, I love to paint pictures. I love imagery. And I like to just kind of like bring people into a world whenever like they listen to a song, to kind of like be able to close their eyes and be transported to another place. And visuals and videos always help that. Like, no matter what, they're always going to be like the toast to, or the jelly to the music's peanut butter.
Yes.
And I work um, with my guy Isaiah Watts,
Okay.
aka Idea. Shout
Okay.
out to the boy. And I've also been recently working with Marco Travers. Shout out to Marco. That's the G2.
Okay.
And we've been collaborating on the last few videos that I've done, and they've just been amazing. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess when it comes down to it, I make my songs, and sometimes I see the video right then and there when I'm writing it, or sometimes I have to finish the song and then see the video come after, and come into fruition. But um, all in all, I love to come with an idea, and no pun intended, shout out to idea. But so like I'll usually come with an initial idea, attacking the song, and then the rest of the team will come with their ideas, and we just sit down and we talk first and foremost of like what makes the most sense, like what kind of message we're trying to convey with the music and with the video. And then after we get everything done and down on the paper, then we kind of just start to move pieces around and be like, all right,
Mm.
this is what we want to do. This is the kind of equipment or kind of stuff that we need to get. This is the setting that we want. This is the place that we need to go to. And we never really go outside of we never really go to great lengths to be able to complete our mission. Like, it's always like we're just gonna go down the street, or we're just gonna
Mm.
meet up here,
Mm.
or we're just gonna go out to this place, because as diverse as New Mexico is in its population and in its culture, the landscape and just physically, like the location is very diverse as well. Like, we have mountains on this side, but then you have the the super intense urban downtown area, but
Mm.
then you have, you know what I mean? But then you go to the west side of New Mexico, and it's very like flat and plateau, and you know what I
Mm.
mean? So it's a lot of different places that you can go to make you feel like you're in an entirely different community or an entirely different location. So we don't ever have to really stretch far or go crazy, go far away to like be able to get done what we want to do. So we just try to be as creative as we can and tell the story that the music is telling us to tell. And
Yeah. Yeah.
that's how we move.
Now it's also starting to sound like an ad for I wanna go to New Mexico now. I wanna go
I
again. I need to go
I could come on
visit.
here.
Yes. I need to be out there. I do have one quick question, and then I want to transition into the video, one specific video that we were talking about. You have Japanese characters in the bottom of your video, and it
Oh yeah.
says Ningen Nashi. So I speak Japanese. So it says
Oh,
Ningen Nashi, right? Which
I gotta connect you with my boy Idea. Idea is the guy.
okay,
He's the man behind that. Yeah.
got it. Okay. Is it supposed to be part of People Ruin Everything, or is it just no
Yeah.
human?
That's Ideas you know, his like altered alias, or
Got
like
it.
that's the motto or the mantra that he sticks with, and that
Got
he
it.
kind of uses to represent his brand. And
Yes.
his brand is People Ruin Everything, and
Got
his
it.
logo is super dope. His logo is like this little dinosaur,
Yeah.
and it's super dope. And he has like clothes and all this kind of stuff that goes with it. So shout out People Ruin Everything. That's Ideas.
Got it.
His life's work. You know what I'm
Got it.
saying? And
Okay. Because
we always try to create all of our stuff.
I
So
was like, what are these Japanese characters doing down here?
yeah,
No humans? Like,
it's
what is
funny because I'm
happening?
actually, and I feel kind of, you made me feel kind of sad because I was actually born in Japan.
Really? Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my parents were like in the military, so
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
my mom was pregnant with me when they were stationed out there. So I was
Yeah.
born in Okinawa, in
Okay. Yeah.
Chatham. So, but I really don't actually. I didn't know that. I didn't know what it meant until he had to tell me it was people with everything Japanese. I really only know how to count to 10 if I'm being honest.
I mean,
Like,
that's a good thing to know because counting to 10, you can count to 100. We can talk about that
hey,
another time. But yeah,
wow,
you can definitely, you can get pretty far with just the numbers.
yeah,
I love that. We'll put some links in the bio below so you can see some of those videos and check out the Ningen Nashi, the No Humans People Ruin Everything logo. So back to your videos. The one I really wanted to dig into is off of your latest project, and it's Kali's interlude video.
mm,
Um, and you had posted it, and that is sort of going to segue us into sort of your activism. But talk to us about that video. I mean, you have the flashing blue red lights right on
mm.
you, and you're talking and you're explaining this whole situation. Talk to us about the thoughts behind that video.
Awesome. So yeah, Kali's interlude is featuring my man Kali Soul, which is one of my favorite artists of not just in New Mexico, just anywhere. Like one of my favorite artists, one of my favorite writers of all time. Um, he's like a guy that inspires me to do better and inspires me to write better. Also alongside Joffro and so many other people that are from here, that and just make me want to be a better person. And I made that song. Little backstory on the song. I made that song also when I was back at school in my dorm room in New York. It was like late night. It must have been like 3 in the morning or something like that. And I was just up, and I made the beat for it. I got some like real loopy drums. I just looped the drums and I just played the chords. And then I got on the mic and I just freestyled off the top of my head the hook, which is the bleed, et cetera, bleed, et cetera, et cetera. And then I sat on it for like a couple weeks. I never touched it again.
Mm.
And then I was just like, I'm gonna send this to Kali because I had a really cool conversation with him. And it was just about life, like one of those really cool, like keep your head up type of conversations. So I sent him the song just because I don't know, I just felt moved to. And he had it for like literally like almost a year. I'm not even gonna lie, like almost a year that nobody touched the song. And then I told him I was working on my project, Look How They Treat Us. And then when I told him I was doing that, he laid a verse down, or he told me he laid a different verses down, and he sent it back to me. That was the verse that he chose. And ever since then, we didn't mix the. I didn't mix the song. Nobody mastered it. Nobody touched the song after that. Like that's just the roughest, most original version of the song that it can be. Like there's no mix, no master, or anything on that song. And so I wanted it to sound rough, and I wanted it to sound like authentic because I wanted it to be real. You know what I mean? Because of the topics that we're talking about are just so real, and it pertains so much to not only our lives in 2020, but our lives how they've been for decades. And I can even say centuries. You know what I mean? So when it came to making the video, we all knew, me, Marco, and Idea. We all knew it was like it was something that we wanted to approach in the right way, and that we wanted to make sure that we kind of hit all of the the points that were needed to be hit, to express, to convey the message that we wanted to convey in the song. And so when it came down to it, like I said, how we approach all our videos, we came up with a treatment for it. We sat down and we just talked about what we want to do and the best way to execute it. And we wanted to tell the story of young people that just are living their lives, young African Americans that are just living their lives literally, and that's the video. Is just young people that are just living their lives, but in for some reason, living your life is a crime in the eyes of some people, and
Mm.
so one it goes from us just kind of hanging out. I got a backpack on. We're just walking around through streets. It's just a cool night. Nothing better to do but just hang out with the homies. And you know, something we're just chilling in the alley, and then all of a sudden, the police, hit the scene, and things. You can imagine what happens after that. If you haven't seen the video already, you can imagine what happens after that. And that's just a picture that we wanted to paint. And alongside, like I said, alongside the music and the writing, there's also an element that we wanted to incorporate, which is like the physical element of just feeling so sad and feeling so broken. And I felt like the best way to show that visually was to have a dancer, and so that's why hit up one of my longest best friends. His name is Fernando Barrios, and he's the guy that's dancing in the video as well. And so we wanted to incorporate, physical representation of the sorrow and the emotion that's brought, as well as the musical, representation.
I'll put the link in the below for people to see the video. I definitely felt that, and it stuck out to me so much, and I really wanted to ask you about it. So thank you for sharing about that, because I mean, it's timely, right? Everything that's been happening this past summer, this past year, like that video really speaks to a lot of those things. And you said it's been happening for centuries and stuff like that, but it's still something that needs to be talked about. And when artists are able to put it in their music and really, show it, I think that's when we really start to see the impact of things. How has your activism really been involved in your music? You do mention a couple of things. I know there's one song where you mentioned Trayvon and like, what would he say if he was still here, right? Things like that. Trayvon Martin, who was killed. And so talk to us about how your activism sort of overlaps with your art, and that sort of aspect.
Yeah, that's kind of a loaded question. Uh, I guess in a way, I guess I can only really speak towards um things I've seen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so um, I only want people to believe in themselves and believe in us as a community,
Mm,
that we can eventually, through all of the stuff that happens, through all of the things that go on in our society today. I want us to know ultimately, that we can reconcile. You know what I mean? Through all of the hate and all of the stuff that happens, I feel like there's always love deep rooted in there. You know what I
mm,
mean? It's just a matter of pulling it out, and it's just a matter of acknowledging it, and recognizing it. And so, at the end, as much as I talk about, death and even my own battles with, like, me contemplating life, and, like, what the meaning of it and what your purpose is,
yeah.
what my purpose is. I always try to end my music, and just, like, if I'm making a project, or if it's just a song, or if it's just a verse, or a poem or something that I'm writing, I always try to end it on a note of, like I said, optimism before. I always want to end it on a note of, like, this is what's going on now, and like I said, like, I'm speaking on it from a reflective perspective, or just something that I've seen.
Mm,
But by the end of it, I always want people to know that we can do better. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
it's like, what I want to talk about is, like, it's almost like writing an essay. You want to state what the current status is,
Hmm.
and then by the end of it, you want to just say, like, all right, this is what's going on now. This is what I want to be, the reality in the future. And, like, that's really all I can do. You know what I mean? That's really all we can do, is just, like, try to inspire people to be better people.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's so, and universal language, right? Music. It connects
Mhm.
across so many borders, and so many things. So I think your music really does that. And it did leave me like with positive vibes. Like I told you, I couldn't even like sleep that night. I was just like listening
Yeah.
track to track. I got your SoundCloud, and then I got the iTunes and all those things.
Oh, so you was grabbing it. You was grabbing it going. Yeah. The vibes.
Into it. So yeah, I really appreciate that you talked about that aspect in your music. So I
Mhm.
want to give you a chance to promote anything that you're working on, anything in the future that we should be looking out for, anything that you want to talk about. This is sort of your time to promote whatever you want to promote.
Oh, okay, it's lit. So yeah, if you have not heard of me or do not know who I am, my name is Xavier. I go by Z the author, Z the author. You know what I'm saying? You could check me out on Instagram as Z the author, Twitter as Z the author, Facebook as Z the author. You know the vibes. For all my Facebook moms and dads.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
You got a LinkedIn?
Um, yeah, LinkedIn, you know what I'm saying? You can hit me up, you know what I'm saying? You trying to pay a boy, you know what I'm saying? I send that invoice, I got that PayPal, you know vibes. Um, I've created a musical, my latest musical project is called Look How They Treat Us, out on all platforms, Apple Music, Spotify, whatever you're trying to get it titled, wherever you're trying to go, YouTube. I make videos, cool music videos. I think they're pretty cool.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm working on new music, but I don't really have a timeline for like when I'm gonna release anything new.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of like letting the year go by, and we're looking into. I'm looking. I have 2021 vision now. You know
Yes.
what I mean? My 2020 vision has evolved, so
Yes. Yes.
I'm looking into next year and just hoping that it only brings blessings and good vibes.
And it
And
will. It will. I have
yeah,
no doubt. I know you talk a little bit in your songs on Look How They Treat Us about quarantine getting you and stuff like that, but I
yeah.
have no doubt that you will.
I'm sure it's hitting all of us in a different way, but I'm ready to just, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Euro step into the new year, you feel me?
Yes.
I'm ready to Kobe fade away into the new
Yes.
year,
Oh, R.I.P. Kobe. Yes, definitely.
the vibe. So, but I guess the last thing that I need to say is just vote.
Yeah.
Most importantly, I know we were just talking about it a couple minutes ago. I teamed up with the New Mexico Black Voters Collaborative, and we are hyped to try to get people to vote and get into the polls and get in those lines and participate, because it's like in this country it's the most important thing that you could possibly do, especially as a minority, especially as a Black person. Please participate and be the change that you wish to see. That's
Yeah.
all I can say.
Yeah, I love that. I have the video. We're definitely going to post about that. Definitely go vote, not just in this election, right, but in any election that happens. Our voices matter, and it's so important for us to be out there and voting. Thank you so much. I'm going to ask you my final question.
Here we go. Here we go.
Mountains, mountains, or
Mountain.
ocean?
Ooh. Oh, that's crazy. Cause I grew up around mountains. Like
Yeah.
I literally grew up 15 minutes away from the mountains. But I love the ocean. I love water.
You were born on an island, so
Going on
surrounded by water.
Mm. I love you, New Mexico, but I'm gonna have to go with the ocean. Cause
Yeah.
I love water. And I don't know. It's just so soothing. I love the color blue. I just
Yeah.
can't. I just gotta go with the ocean.
I'm an ocean person too, so I think you made the right choice. But to all the mountain people, that's okay. Like y'all can still go hike and all that jazz.
You know what I'm saying? Like y'all can have that. Y'all can have that. But
I'm
I'm trying to
incredibly
clean. I'm
quality.
pure. I'm purifying myself.
Yes, yes,
Do it
exactly.
with the ocean.
Thank you so much, Z. This has been so great. I can't wait to keep talking to you and keep watching your journey. Thank you
Yeah,
so, so much. And
appreciate it.
we'll see you soon all over.
Yeah. Awesome. You know the vibes. Thank you guys so much. Yeah.